including Prime Minister Modi, who will be holding a bilateral meeting with Chinese President Xi Jinping. This is their first meeting since 2020 Galwan clash on the sidelines of the BRICS summit that is being attended by both the leaders in Russia. The meet will underscore the upturn in the India-China relationship following a consensus on patrolling arrangement along the line of actual control that had faced multiple hiccups over the last few years. The development comes a day after the government announced that India and China have reached an agreement to resume patrolling at the remaining these are the points of friction along the line of action control in eastern Ladakh, where tensions have persisted since the Galwan Valley clash that took place in June of 2020. The arrangement would, in fact, now make things a whole lot better as far as the LAC is concerned in regard to de-escalation. This would involve a return to the pre-2020 system. It's also moved to stabilize the situation and work as a confidence-building measure between the two nations.
I can confirm that there will be a bilateral meeting held between Prime Minister Modi and President Xi Jinping tomorrow, 23rd of October, on the sidelines of the BRICS summit. The exact time and other logistics are being worked out, but the meeting will take place tomorrow.
And to get more on this, we have strategic affairs expert Brahma Chilani joining us to get us more on this. There have been a couple of brief interactions between the two leaders since the 2020 Galwan clash on the sidelines of the G20 summit in Bali in November of 2022, and then, of course, the BRICS summit that took place in Johannesburg in August of 2023. Take us through the significance of this bilateral meeting of the two leaders on the heels of that breakthrough that we've seen at the border.
First, on the meeting, this is the first formal meeting in over 5 years, because the interactions that have happened previously on the sidelines of summits, multilateral summits, those were informal exchanges. They were not formal bilateral. This would be a formal bilateral. So in that sense, it's significant. But we should not forget that before the Chinese encroachments in Ladakh that triggered the military standoff with India, which is now in its 5th year, Modi and Xi Jinping had met not once, twice, thrice, but 18 times over 5 years. Now, 18 meetings did not dissuade Xi Jinping from seeking to execute his expansionist designs against India. So, given that background, one more formal meeting between Modi and Xi Jinping is not going to by itself fundamentally alter Sino-Indian dynamics. So we need to temper our enthusiasm or our hype over this meeting. This meeting is designed to help lower bilateral tensions. We saw before the BRICS summit began that India and China reached an understanding of some kind. The details of that are still not available. So we do not know exactly what they have agreed upon. But the understanding that they have reached of some kind is aimed at reducing border tensions between the two militaries. And I think this political meeting between the leaders will also seek to help reduce the tensions between the two countries so that at least a cooperative relationship can be built.
Right. Sir, Prime Minister Modi is being seen as a messenger of peace and diplomacy. He's reiterated that the only forward way is, through dialogue. Can we expect that to be reflective in this meeting?
Well, India is seeking to be a bridge builder in international relations. It has good relations with all the powers other than China. India is seeking to play, for example, a mediatory role in the Ukraine war. Of course, that role depends largely on the US, because if the US is not supporting India's mediatory effort, that effort cannot go very far. But in the larger scheme of things, Indian foreign policy aims to make India a bridge builder in international relations. So as part of that effort, India is willing to broker peace between rival powers. It's willing to mediate in conflicts, but such efforts can only take off if the parties involved in conflict of any kind were to seek India's good offices.
Right. Brahma Chalani, take us through the political implications of this breakthrough that we're seeing at the border.
A breakthrough would be a bit of a strong word because, as I mentioned, the details of this understanding have not been reached. It seems to me that it's only a modest step toward reaching broader understandings on the core issues that are that created this standoff, and therefore this understanding should lead to more negotiations and more agreements or understandings. So this is just the first step, and I think we need to factor in the larger complex picture, because disengagement has to be the first step, and then after disengagement there has to be de-escalation, and in the third and final step we need to have de-induction of the rival forces that are massed along the Himalayan frontier.
Right,
so, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, sir, go ahead, please.
So several more steps would be needed before the standoff between India and China along the Himalayan frontier can be, can be ended. So right now, what we have seen is a important first step, but I won't call it a breakthrough. It's a beginning toward resolving a border crisis, which is now in its 5th year. Now, these two countries, China and India, together make up more than 1/3 of the global population, and any kind of resolution of the standoff, I don't think we can resolve the border disputes between China and India, given China's 60-year record of using the border issue as leverage against India. But what the two governments are seeking to do is to find a way to resolve the military standoff, which involves at least 100,000 troops on each side. And when I talk about the standoff, much of the media in India is focusing on just the eastern Ladakh. Actually, there are also standoffs in other sectors. For example, there's a standoff on the Sikkim-Tibet border. There are a couple of standoffs on the Arunachal-Tibet border. So all these standoffs, local standoffs, will have to be resolved, and the troops that are massed along the Himalayan frontier will have to be de-inducted eventually. But the core issue will remain, which is that China has changed facts on the ground. It has changed facts on the ground both by encroaching on Indian territories in eastern Ladakh and by building permanent new warfare-related infrastructure, including an extensive network of underground facilities.
Right, sir, would you say this is a strategic move and a strategic choice by China in order to stabilize its border during a time that we are seeing conflicts across the world?
I think China is realizing that it miscalculated by making those encroachments on Indian borderlands in eastern Ladakh. Xi Jinping probably thought that he would be able to present those encroachments, those land grabs, as a fait accompli to India. He did not anticipate that India would respond in a robust manner by more than matching Chinese military deployments along the frontier. So this long standoff with India only draws international attention to the China-India territorial disputes. This is not what China wishes to highlight. It wishes to highlight its challenge to US hegemony in the world. But here, it's India that has been able to highlight internationally its challenge to Chinese power and capability. So for China, resolving this border crisis with India certainly is a priority. That's the reason why we are seeing some movement, even if it's just a first step. We are seeing this movement largely because the Chinese want to resolve or at least lower the tensions with India.
Right. Thank you so much, Sir Brahma Chelani, for joining us on the broadcast this morning.